Hello and welcome back to all of you in this series of psychology where we are studying about two books of graduation. One is Introduction to Psychology by Robert A. Barron, and second one is Introduction to Psychology by Cicerelli. Remember one thing, in previous three classes, our classes were of very short time, but now classes will be maybe extend up to 1 hour or more than 1 hour, because yet it was only an introductory phase, and due to which we were not going into the detail of it. But now, since we are going to study about the research methodology, and all the chapters, all the upcoming chapters are important, and that's why we have to understand all these topics with examples and with all the experiments, some of the experiment which have been performed earlier, and thus many theories has been developed in psychology. Classes will be of long duration, but I'm sure you will not get bored, because examples are of such kind that you will feel amazed to know of such a phenomena which I'm going to discuss in every article of this book further. So here, from here we have to start. Cicerelli deals with the introduction to psychology by Cicerelli. It starts with this book starts with the psychological goals. We are studying about scientific research. So before we go deep into the research methodology, we need to know something about its introduction. The first one is psychology's goal. What should be the goal of psychology? This seems to be very illogical topic, but we will read about some examples which are very influential in our life, and you will get surprised to know such facts. So when we talk about the psychological goals, here it has been mentioned that the goal of psychology are the goals specifically aimed at uncovering the mysteries of human and animal behavior, and these goals are determined by these goals are description, explanation, prediction, and control. This is the goal of psychology. But if we our common sense says that the goal of psychology should be only explanation, prediction, and control. No, this is not true. Description also comes under the goal of psychology. So there are four goals of any scientific research method, that is description, explanation, prediction, and control. What is description? Literally it means to describe something in detail, but in psychology it has something to do with this world, and it has given an example. Let's say example, a psychologist might wonder why so many computer scientists seem to this example will be told in this this example will be told to you to make you understand entire goal of psychology. The example is, a psychologist might wonder why so many computer scientists seem to be male. There are computer scientists, and we have seen, not in India, this may not be applicable in India or in any other culture, but this may be applicable in United States, as the book has been written there. So author says that there are many The field of computer science is dominated by males. So the question here comes that why females are not there. And further, if we describe that many non-techies stereotypically perceive the life and environment of a computer science as someone who lives and breathes as at the computer and surrounds himself with computer games, junk foods, science fiction gadgets, characteristics that add up to very masculine ambience. So the term description means, in this example, it has been said that the field of computer science is male dominated. And what other observations are? Other observations may be that if someone is related to computer science, that is, if someone is techie, known as computer science, related to computer techniques, he may have many computer games, junk food all around him, science fiction gadgets, etc., etc. And the author describes that these characteristics are masculine in nature. This is the description, not the reason, not the logic. This is only a description. Now, what is the question? The question is, why do females avoid in such an environment, with such an environment? What is the environment? I have told it that computer games, junk foods, science fiction gadgets, etc. These are the environment of a computer science person. So why females? This is the description. And now the next thing comes is explanation. The part of explanation deals with the question that why something or someone is related to that description. Means why females try to avoid in such try to avoid being the part of such an environment. And here's the answer. Based on the observations, the psychologist might try to come up with a tentative explanation, such as women feel they do not belong in such stereotypically masculine surroundings. In other words, she is trying to understand or find an explanation for the lower proportion of women in this field. Means there are a male dominated field of computer science doesn't mean that it does not have any women in the field of computer science. It means that the author will try to know that why author will try to know about the conditions of those women who are working already in the field of computer science. Because if we get to know about them, then we can know the difficulties faced by these women, and that's why other women do not try to come in the field of computer science. That's the explanation part. And some real experiments have been done with this example. For the example is proceeding example comes from a real experiment conducted by psychologist Sapna Cherian. Actually, Sapna Cherian is a psychologist who is professor who teaches psychology at the University of Washington in Seattle. She set up 4 experiments with more than 250 female and male student participants who were not studying computer science. There were 250 female and male students. Some of them were male and some of them were female. And she performed 4 experiments with this group, and all the participants were not studying computer science. Matlab means no one was studying computer science. In the first experiment, a student came into a small classroom that had one of two sets of objects. Two sets of objects, and these two sets of objects were either linked with the computer science or they were neutral, natural environment. It was a natural environment. Means there was there were two rooms, and in one room the gadgets related to computer science or the environment related to computer science was set up, and in second room there was nothing related to computer science. Means it was a natural environment which we see at our homes. Now what happens, all the participants were told to ignore the objects because they were sharing the room with another class. The students spent several time in the classroom. While still sitting in the classroom, they were asked to fill out a questionnaire asking about their attitude towards computer science. While the attitude of male students were not different between the two environments, women exposed to the stereotypically masculine setup were less interested in computer science than those who were exposed to the non-stereotypical environment. Means all the students who were in, let's say this was classroom A, this was classroom B, and all the students belonging to class A were surveyed, were given a questionnaire, and in that questionnaire it was shown that males were neutral towards the computer science and females in group A behaved stereotypically. Means they shown unwillingness towards the masculine feature of that classroom where the gadgets related to computer science were put. And in classroom B, all the participants were neutral. This is the explanation. Now the question arises, other thing is, the three other similar experiments yielded the same results. Later studies found that when women were exposed to role models who dressed and acted according to the computer science stereotyped image, those women showed decreased interest in computer science as a career, as well as decreased expectation of success in that field. In two similar follow-up studies with high school students, the researchers found that providing adolescent girls with an educational environment that did not fit current computer science stereotypes seemed to increase their interest in computer science courses. Uh, Means when adolescent girls were exposed to the environment of educational environment related to computer science, they showed their increased interest of computer science. Means what will be outcome? This was the explanation, this was not the outcome. We have not concluded it, we have not predicted it, but what we can say here that environment plays a very crucial role in determining the interest of anyone towards something. Like I will give a personal example. You are studying psychology, you have taken psychology as a subject in your graduation. Many of, if I will ask you why did you choose psychology as a subject in your graduation, many of you will answer that I was interested because I was interested in psychology. Should this question, should is this answer that I was interested in psychology, that's why I took up psychology in my graduation, is sufficient to explain everything about your interest? No, the question here arises why you are interested in psychology, and this logical question of reason behind your interest will give you the explanation part of your experiment. Here in this example, we have seen that environment affects our interest a lot. If we talk about our common sense, it may say, if you will ask someone that why women are less in the field of computer science, then there might be something else. They might relate it with prejudices, with attitudes and something else, but they will not never come to common sense will not give you the region of environment with a proper explanation. And here with these experiments we have got the region, that not the stereotypes, not the attitudes, not the prejudices, environment is the reason. That's why women are not in computer science. Here environment means a masculine environment, and that masculine environment is a stereotyped environment. And next one is prediction. What you have got the explanation, firstly you have got the description, next you have got the explanation. Now what should be the prediction? Prediction is simply your prediction should always be based on your description and explanation. First you will say that what are the conditions and what is happening. You will observe what is happening in description, right? Here you will study about environment, study about actually what is happening means why women are less in computer science. This is first description, and secondly computer science has a masculine environment which is stereotyped. This is your second point of description. And explanation, what should be your explanation? The reason is, if we the reason is the environment, masculine stereotyped environment, due to which women are less in the field of computer science. Now what should be the prediction? If we are able to change the environment, then we may change the participation of women in the field of computer science. Prediction will always your explanation part will be crucial role for predicting something. Means if you are predicting, that is you have the problem, during your explanation you found the problem, now you have to remove that problem, solution will be automatically there in your hand. So you have to change the environment. The masculine behavior, these gadgets, for example prediction, what's the problem? We have said that junk food, science fiction gadgets, computer games, these are items related to computer science. And now these three items have been stereotypically added to the masculine behavior. You have to break that masculine behavior, that stereotype that these gadgets are related to masculine behavior. If these gadgets will be perceived as neutral stimuli or natural environment without any male dominance, male attraction or female attraction, then of course females will try to come in this field. So you have to remove this prejudiced behavior, this stereotyped behavior. related to masculinity, which is related to masculinity, and that will be the simple prediction that you have to remove, change the environment. And another thing which happens is that solution. What is the solution? When this last line was added here, that adolescence girl, when the child is small, young enough, means age in, he or she is in her or his adolescence, they may be exposed to these gadgets, and hence by being exposed to these gadgets repeatedly, their stereotype will automatically be reduced, and their interest will surely come into the field of computer science. This was the prediction. And what is the control? Control is the focus of control or the modification of some behavior is to change a behavior from an undesirable one, such as women avoiding a certain academic measure to desirable one, such as more equality in the career choices. Professor Cheran suggests that changing the image of computer science may help increase the number of women choosing to go in this field. Means you have predicted that this will happen, but now if you have to apply all these things or the result of this experiment in your real life, you have to control the situation, you have to control your the behavior, and you have to make the environment so that you can apply the theories of your experiment in the real life. That's the control. Now next thing is steps in scientific approach. What are the steps which we follow in getting the scientific approach? The first one is perceiving a question. You must have a question to initiate an experiment. If you don't have the question, why, how, and due to what reason, you will initiate the scientific research or any experiment. So the question is must for initiating any experiment. Here we have an example. Might be that you have noticed that your children seem to get a little more aggressive with each other after watching a particularly violent children's cartoon program on Saturday morning. Remember, Saturday morning. If you wonder if the violence in the cartoon could be creating the aggressive behavior in your children, here the question seems that due to watching, is this due to watching the violent cartoon your child is behaving like this? He is somehow showing some type of aggression with his peers. What is the reason with this? Reason may be watching of an aggressive cartoon, but here this is the question. Perceiving the question. What is the question? This is the question. And once you have a question, you want an answer. If you have a question, surely it's a human behavior, you want to strive, you will strive for the answer. And the next logical step is to form a tentative hypothesis. Now what is the hypothesis? There are two types of hypothesis. Will also study in our statistics part, but here I am telling you about some initial steps. There are two types of hypothesis. One is null hypothesis, and second one is test hypothesis or research hypothesis. It may also be called research hypothesis. What should be our research hypothesis in this example? In this example, we will say that if a child has watched aggressive cartoon, his behavior will be affected. Means he will show somehow increased degree of aggressiveness. This will be the hypothesis which we will call testing hypothesis or research hypothesis. And what will be null hypothesis? The aggressive cartoons or any type of cartoon, aggressive cartoons or violent cartoon does not have any impact on the behavior of child. That will be null hypothesis. As a researcher, you are trying to test your hypothesis, means you are trying to get the answer of your test hypothesis, but your null hypothesis may also be correct. Remember, if you are failed, your testing hypothesis is failed, this means what? Your null hypothesis is correct, and you have to perform your research again with some other perspective. Now let's begin with the same example again with the same hypothesis. Based on your initial observations of what's going on in your surroundings, you form an educated guess about the explanation for your observation. Means hypothesis is an educated guess, putting it into the form of a statement that can be tested in some way. That is your you must form a research hypothesis. Testing hypothesis is the heart of any scientific investigation and is the primary way in which support for the theories is generated. In fact, a good theory should lead to the formation of hypothesis, prediction based on the theory. It might be helpful to think of an if-then statement. If-then statement, I am not going to read further. I will explain you what is it is saying. Means if you are trying to form a hypothesis, then what should be your research hypothesis in this example? The research hypothesis will be, let me change its color. The research hypothesis will be a statement like if and then. If and then. What does it mean? That if the child watches violent behavior, then his behavior if the child watches violent cartoons, then his behavior will be aggressive or violent. This will be your simple research hypothesis which you want to test in your experiment. And without forming any hypothesis, you are not going to without forming any hypothesis, you are not going you are not able to conduct any of your experiment. And we have talked about research hypothesis, and one this research hypothesis contains if then type of condition. This if statement is known as your theory part of your experiment. And if this then statement is the real statement which you want to test. What does it mean? It means that let's suppose the child has you are conducting the experiment and you have shown some violent actions to some of your violent cartoons to some of your participants, but their behavior in the natural environment is still same as before watching the cartoon. What does this mean? This means your research hypothesis has been not verified and your experiment has failed. So does this have not any conclusion? Yes, this might this indicates that your hypothesis, the hypothesis which you had formed, was somehow wrong or not in a direction, or it means that cartoons will have no any impact on the violent cartoons will have no any impact on the behavior of the participants or the child. So what should be the next possible reason to explain this event? Remember, the sentence was, on Saturday morning, this you had observed this phenomena on Saturday morning. So this might also be due to the breakfast. The child got his breakfast on Saturday, and then he showed the aggressive behavior, violent behavior. That may also be true. So this is another, this is the thing by which you will repeat your experiment, taking this Saturday breakfast of Saturday morning in your account, and you will form new hypothesis, and you will repeat again, and you will analyze the results again, and same process will be repeated till until and unless you have got the a good explanation to explain the reason behind this. That's what the hypothesis says. Next one is testing the hypothesis. Now you have formed the hypothesis. How will you test your hypothesis? Probably there will be, you have to conduct an experiment or observation or survey, anything else. There are many types of research methodologies which we will study in our next class, but we have to test our hypothesis. So let's suppose we are going with an experiment. How will we conduct, the experiment? A simple type of experiment will be, let's there are two groups, group A, group B. You have shown a violent cartoon to group A. Firstly, before conducting your experiment, you will there will be your participants. You will choose your participants, and you will record their behavior in normal conditions before this experiment. And now after the cartoon is now when the experiment will start, you will show some violent cartoon to group A, and group B will be shown some neutral cartoon, or may not be a cartoon, anything else it may be. And now after this is over, you will leave them to their natural environment, and you will record their behavior in their natural environment. Now the difference between the behavior before they watch the cartoon and after they watch the cartoon will show the results, that is there any impact of violent cartoon on the behavior of child or not. Because you have group B also, with whom you can compare the results. Is this as simple as like I explained it? No, this is not as simple as I explained. It will involve some statistical method that you will have to find the averages. You have to go through your testing hypothesis. You may have to conduct t-test and many types of tests which we will study in our statistics. But this is the meaning of testing hypothesis. Another thing, drawing conclusion after you have got the results and based on your statistics. Remember, you need statistics, you need records, you need numbers to draw any conclusion, because you have to report all these things to the higher authorities like APA, American Psychological Association. So this is what reporting or results. This is a very crucial part. Suppose you have conducted the experiment, you have tested your hypothesis, you have drawn the conclusion, and unfortunately your research hypothesis was not verified, means your test got failed. So should you report this experiment, result of this experiment, to the higher authorities? The answer is yes, you must. Why? Because there is a possibility that you may have conducted the experiment in a wrong way, or if you were right, then also you have conducted the experiment in a very professional manner. Still, some researcher might not be satisfied with your experiment, and they will also be uh, trying to conduct the same experiment. So what will happen if you are reporting this incident, this experiment to others? Then it means the person, next psychologist, next person who is going to carry out the same experiment will first go through your experiment. He will see what was there any mistake in your experiment, was there any problem, and he will try to modify his experiment based on your experiment. So it is must to report all your experiments, either they are successful or fail, to higher authority. Second one, if your experiment is successful, then what should you do? Obviously you should report, so that others can learn and they may repeat your experiments. Now there are many research methods about which we will study in our next class, but right now we have seen what should be taken care of about before we are going to conduct our experiment. In this book, we have opened I have opened Cicerelli, and now I'm going to turn back towards Baron, what that book says before it comes to research methodology, before the studying the methods of in psychology. So let me open it. Where is that? Psychology by Baron. We were here. They have it has taken some other example, not the computer science. The same thing is repeated, but with some other example. Here it says that it has taken an example before trying to uh, let you understand about the research methods. It has taken an example. Is it the chocolate, or are you really in love? Actually, in America, there was United States of America. There was an issue during 90s or 80s that chocolate was liked by nearly every person of United States of America, and these were the headlines in the newspaper of those times. So this line has picked up from those newspapers, and this is an example. Actually, what it is saying that some people used to, at that time used to say that if you are eating chocolates, then you are going to happy. Means chocolates give pleasure. Okay. And then this theory got modified, and it was started saying that if you are eating chocolate will help you being pleased always, being pleasant always, and it will help you in making your relationship better. That was what this theory gone through. And after that, when large number of people started believing in such statements, obviously there were psychologists and they conducted the experiments, and in these experiments it was shown that chocolates is really have some pleasant some hormone, some chemicals which used to affect the biology of human body, and due to which some hormones are released, due to which a short time pleasure may be felt by some chocolates. It was these were the experiments which were conducted earlier, and due to these hormones, maybe it may be helpful in making your relationship better. But wait, these were initial experiments. Later experiments showed that chocolates do indeed have some chemicals which might give you a short time pleasure, but still, chocolates are also responsible for migraine and pain, headache and migraine. So you cannot come to a conclusion that chocolates give pleasure to you. We cannot. Startingly, it was believed, but to get up into the reality, these experiments were conducted, and these experiments showed that there is no relation between your love life or pleasure with the chocolates. Simply, after when several experiments were conducted, this thing was established. So, what is source? This shows that initial this statement was based on was not based on any scientific evidence. This is the statement was just based on your common sense. Someone said and it got spread. It may be also called as a rumor. But when actual experiments were conducted, the reality came out. What's the importance of research methods in psychology. Every theory which we are going to study ahead will be based on such examples, such experiments, and such surveys. In psychology, nothing will be studied without any evidence. That's why psychology is considered as a scientific subject. It's a science, not an art. Actually, art is also a science. I should not said that. I have said that it's not an art, but it's a science. So what? Here's a good thing which Baron psychology has given us. What are the uh, features of experiment or a scientific method? Values means we can say what are the values which an experiment should contain. It should be accurate, precise, and careful, free from error as far as possible. Next one is objectivity. That researcher should not be biased to make his research hypothesis successful. We'll study about biasness and also skepticism, a commitment to accepting finding as accurate only after they have been verified over and over again. You have to accept your finding. Open mindedness means if you have got change the results which you had not expected, then you have to be open to accept the results which you have got through your experiment. That's what an experiment or a research should contain. Okay, about theories we have already got studied about theories that it comes with the hypothesis. The first part of the hypothesis is the theory which we want to test, and second part is the actual hypothesis about which we want to know the answer. One of the most important thing which Byron has given is that difference between common sense and uh, scientific psychology, because there are many person who don't accept psychology in their real life. So to open their eyes, this example he had given. For example, there are some words, some sentences said, which are based on the common sense. One such sentence is, where is it given? One's first sentence is absence makes the heart grow fonder. This is a common sense. You may heard this sentence anywhere in our daily life, that if someone is away from you, you will come close to you. If someone is away from you, you are going to be close to him or her. I mean, you will try to remember him always, etc., etc. That means the closeness. If the physical distance is increasing, internal closeness will increase. Closeness in relationship will increase. This is the first statement. And now, using common sense. And now here's the second statement, and the statement is out of sight, out of mind. You may have heard about these two sentences, these two things in your common sense. What's the accurate thing? Common sense will not give you the answer of this question. Why? They are always contradictory. In not always, but many times, majorly, they are contradicting statement. They always contradict with their own statement. So we cannot rely on the common sense. We have to do experiments to prove which statement of our common sense is correct, in which environment also, with explanation. I think you have understood about this difference between common sense and psychology. And the next one is, when someone is going to study or going to do some research, there is a problem. That first one is confirmation bias. Like an example is, like, I'm going to conduct an experiment. I have a research hypothesis. I have a null hypothesis. Why will I try to make my null hypothesis correct? Obviously, I will try to make my research hypothesis correct so that my experiment becomes successful and I get recognition or anything else, whatever you say. So I will always try to make my research hypothesis successful so that our experiment can be successful. But this is what we are not supposed to do in psychology. Confirmation bias means researcher wants to see only those things, those aspects of the experiment which supports his research hypothesis. And this is what we are not supposed to do as a psychologist. Remember this thing. Secondly, availability heuristics. Let's say there are some words. Here it has given a very good example, that how many letters are there. Number of words in English starting with letter K is more than the number of words in English where letter K comes at third position. What will be your answer? Obviously, your answer will be the letter which number of letters which starts with K are greater than the number of letters in which a number of words in which K is at third position, right? And you will be wrong. In English, number of words in which K is at the third position is greater than the number of the words in which starts with the letter K. Why this happened? This mistake happened, but why? Because of availability heuristic. When we are going to solve any problem, whatever the facts come earlier to us, immediately to us, we focus more on them and we ignore rest of them. And that's what we are not supposed to do. Third one is mood effects. If you are feeling pleasant, you will your behavior will be pleasant to others also. But if you are feeling sadness, your behavior will be sad with the respect to others also. This is also what, as a psychologist, we are not supposed to do. That's the end of this class, and in next class we will be studying about the research methods which are adopted in psychology, generally adopted in psychology, like observation. This is also of two types: natural observation and laboratory observation. And then we will have case studies, surveys, self reports, correlation, regression, etc., etc., etc. We are not that close. Also will be long class, but I think if you have listened, if you have focused on my words carefully, you might have amazed to get about these results and get to know about these research which have research papers which have been published already and are now the subject matter in psychology. That's the end of this class. Thank you.